In the heart of a glimmering underwater world where the ocean hummed lullabies and the coral swayed like sleepy dancers in dream, lived a young narwhal named Nori. His body shimmered with soft silver and pale blue hues, and his long spiral tusk was not just beautiful, it was magical. But not the kind of magic that made fireworks or summoned lightning storms. No, Nori's magic was a gentlest kind, the kind that made even the crankiest crab yawn, made the noisiest schools of fish quieten into whispers, and wrapped the ocean in a cozy, invisible blanket each night. Nori could create dream bubbles, not ordinary bubbles, the kind that burst and vanish in an instant. These were bubbles filled with slumber itself, little floating orbs of comfort, warmth, and peace. When one of these bubbles touched another creature, their worries would drift away like sea foam on the tide, and their hearts would feel as light as a seashell caught in a soft current. Each bubble shimmered with a different color, depending on the kind of dream it carried. Blue for calm, lavender for sweet memories, golden yellow for courage, and pink. Oh, the pink ones. Those were for love. Every night, before he tucked himself into his favorite patch of anemone pillows, Nori would drift through the kelp forest, gently releasing dream bubbles into the ocean. They floated upward and outward, as if the sea itself were exhaling hope. Tonight, however, something felt different. The coral gardens were quiet. Too quiet. Usually, at this time of evening, the sea cucumbers would be rolling over to find the coolest rocks. The clownfish would be tucking themselves into their cozy anemones, and the sea turtles would be telling each other old, slow stories that took hours to finish. But now, silence. Even the jellies, who always floated like glowing lanterns in the dusk, had retreated to the deeper currents. Nori furrowed his brow, which, for a narwhal, meant he tilted his whole head slightly and made a small, thoughtful hum. Something wasn't right. He flicked his tail and glided smoothly through the dimming water toward the coral canyon, where he usually found his friend Ollie the octopus curled around his favorite shell collection. Sure enough, there was Ollie, but instead of curling happily or rearranging his pebbles as usual, Ollie's arms were all drooped and sprawled out like soft ropes. His usually bouncy body seemed deflated, and his eyes blinked slowly, each blink carrying a tiny sigh. Nori stopped beside him and hovered gently. "Ollie," he hummed, "are you feeling tangled?" That was how sea creatures often describe big, confusing feelings. Tangled. Ollie blinked again, and a couple of salty bubbles rose from his siphon like sighs. "Oh, Nori," he murmured, "I lost my special shell." Nori tilted his head. "Your spiral one? With the pink ridges and the tiny gold flecks?" Ollie nodded solemnly. "The tide pulled it out of my nook. I tried to catch it, but the current was too fast. It's gone." Nori floated a little closer. "That shell, it held your pebble memories." Ollie nodded again, his eyes wide with sadness. "Each pebble I placed in there reminded me of something. A game we played. A funny joke the puffin fish told me. That time I pretended to be a sea pancake and scared myself." Nori gave a small, echoing chuckle. "That was a good one. But now," Ollie continued, his voice thick, "it's all gone. The shell, the memories, like they got swallowed by the sea." For a moment, Nori didn't say anything. He simply let the silence be a soft place for Ollie's sadness to rest. Then gently he closed his eyes, and his tusk began to glow, a soft twilight blue. A single bubble emerged from the tip, growing slowly until it detached, floating with elegant grace toward Ollie. It sparkled with the color of deep calm, the kind of blue you see just before the sun sinks behind the horizon. The bubble made contact with Ollie's forehead and quietly popped, releasing a shimmer that enveloped the octopus in a slow swirl of calm. Ollie sighed again, but this time it wasn't a sad sigh. It was the kind of sigh that comes just after a hug. The heavy droop of his arms softened, and he sat up just a little. "I forgot," he whispered. "I forgot that the memories live here, too." He touched one of his arms to his mantle. "They weren't only in the shell." Nori nodded. "That shell was special, Ollie. But you're the one who made it meaningful. Your memories are in you. And maybe now, you can make a new collection, even more magical than before." Ollie's eyes twinkled, and his color brightened to a hopeful lavender. "You always know what to say." I let the ocean do the talking, Nori said with a smile. The friends sat in comfortable silence for a moment, listening to the distant hum of a whale song echoing through the canyons. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught Nori's eye. Two seahorses, tiny, golden, and pink, were wrapped around a piece of seagrass, tugging at it from opposite sides. Nori recognized them instantly. Shelley and Sammy, twin siblings who were almost always either best friends or fierce competitors, depending on the tide. Tonight, it looked like a competition kind of evening. "That's my strand." Shelley clicked loudly. "No, you took the last juicy one. This one's mine." Sammy retorted. Nori sighed softly. "Looks like Peace needs a bit more help tonight." He swam gently over, pausing just close enough not to startle them. "Hello, clicky sea huggers," he teased. "Are we building something? Or having a tug-of-war?" Both turned to him, surprised, still holding tight to the seagrass. "She started it," said Sammy. "He started saying I started it," said Shelley. Nori smiled. "I think this calls for a little remembering." With a twirl of his tusk, two bubbles emerged, warm, glowing yellow ones this time, the color of early sunlight. The bubbles drifted, one to each seahorse, and upon touching them, burst into glittering sparkles that twirled around their heads. Sammy blinked and then smiled. "I remember when Shelley let me sleep in her bubble fern when I got too cold." Shelley giggled. "And I remember when Sammy pulled sea moss out of my tail and didn't even laugh." They looked at each other. "You can have the first nibble," said Sammy. "No, you can," said Shelley. Then they both started giggling and broke the seagrass in half to share. Nori's heart glowed. Not literally, although sometimes it sort of did. That's the thing about dream bubbles. They didn't just help creatures fall asleep. They helped them feel things more gently, more clearly, with kindness and softness, and all the quiet strength that friendship brings. And Nori, the dream tusk narwhal, felt that strength wrap around him like a warm ocean current. As the evening deepened and the soft moonlight filtered down to the waves, Nori returned to his drip bed. A bed made of cushiony kelp, braided and tucked gently beside a blooming anemone. Before he rested, he exhaled one final bubble, shimmering like a rainbow and the stars combined, and let it float upward, carrying with it every good feeling from the day. High above, in the swaying forest of the sea, that bubble twinkled softly, and for every creature passed on the way, it whispered this: "You are safe, you are loved, and you are not alone." The next morning the reef began the way all the best mornings do, with sunlight gently filtering through swaying kelp, a warm current humming sleepy tunes, and tiny fish stretching their fins in the soft light. But for Ollie the octopus, today wasn't just any morning. Today was the day of his memory quest. The idea had come to him just before drifting off to sleep the night before. Curled gently in his coral cove, arms wrapped around his new favorite rock, a smooth pebble Nori had found for him, Ollie had whispered to himself, "What if I find more memories? What if I build something even better than a shell?" When he blinked open his big eyes that morning, he felt something he hadn't felt in days: excitement. He wriggled all 8 arms with a bounce. "I'm going to gather the brightest, happiest, silliest, and coziest memories I can," he declared to the sleepy starfish nearby, who responded with a single slow blink before rolling over. Ollie peeked outside his nook and saw Nori gliding by, tusk gleaming gently in the morning light. "Nori!" Ollie called out with a happy splash. "I'm going on a memory quest." Nori slowed and turned, smiling. "A memory quest? That sounds like my kind of swim." Ollie beamed. "Want to come with me?" "With all 8 fins," Nori replied with a wink. And just like that, the two friends set off into the shimmering sea. Their first stop was a quiet place known as the Rippling Stone Caves. These caves were special. If you whispered something into the stone at just the right spot, it would echo back, not the words, but the feeling behind them. Some sea creatures call them echo memories. Others simply called them heart hums. Inside the cave, the walls glowed faintly with bioluminescent moss. Ollie floated gently to the middle and placed a new pebble on a flat rock. It was a round, speckled one he'd found that morning. A perfect beginning pebble. "I'm starting my new memory collection," he whispered. His voice carried softly through the water, and the low, warm tone echoed back, not in words, but like a musical hug. Nori, ever curious, nudged his tusk against a stone and closed his eyes. A hum drifted back to him, soft and shimmering, like the very feeling of comfort. The two friends smiled at each other. "This one's for Hope," Ollie said, gently picking up his pebble and placing it into a small pouch made of woven seaweed. Their next stop was a Tide glass garden, a patch of sea where long ribbons of seaweed grew in crystal-clear water. The light bent through it in strange and beautiful ways, creating shifting patterns on the sand. "It's like the ocean is drawing," Ollie whispered. They floated silently for a while, watching shapes form in the dancing light. Spirals, stars, even something that looked suspiciously like a giggling dolphin. Ollie found a seashell here, not just any seashell, but one shaped like a crescent moon. When he held it to his head, it hummed faintly, like the echo from the caves. "I think this one a listening shell," Ollie said softly. "When I forget something special, I'll hold it, and maybe I'll remember the feeling." Nori, proud of his friend, created a dream bubble, light lavender this time, and placed a copy of the garden's shimmering light inside. "In case you need the picture, too," he said. As the sun swam higher overhead, the two friends followed a gentle current into deeper waters. Here, the coral was sparser, the sand darker, and the water cooler. Ollie shivered slightly. "It's a little hushed down here." Nori swam close. Some memories live in quiet places. Just then, a flicker of movement caught their eyes. A long, elegant tail shimmered from behind a coral arch. It was deep teal and covered in tiny, silver specks, like stars sprinkled across a night sky. "Hello," Ollie called gently. A soft face peeked out, long snout, sleepy eyes, and small curling horns. It was Luma, a rare sea dragon and one of the shyest creatures in the reef. "Oh," she murmured, blinking. "I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just watching. Would you like to come with us?" Ollie asked, his voice kind and patient. "We're collecting memories today." Luma hesitated. I don't know if I have any worth keeping." Nori tilted his head. "Would it help if we share one of ours with you first?" Luma nodded quietly. So Ollie reached into his pouch and pulled out his crescent moon shell. He gently passed it to Luma, who held it with surprising delicacy in her fins. She closed her eyes and listened. "I hear laughter," she whispered. "I think it's yours. And light, like glass humming." "That's the garden," Ollie said, beaming. Luma blinked. "It's beautiful." "You're part of it now," Nori said gently. For a moment, Luma's eyes filled with a warm shimmer. Then, without a word, she swam behind the coral arch and returned with something held carefully in her fin. A piece of crystal coral, faintly glowing, shaped like a curled teardrop. "My grandmother gave this to me when I was little," she whispered. "I've kept it hidden. I was afraid if I remembered too hard, it would hurt." Nori spoke softly. "Some memories do hurt, but the love inside them never disappears. It just waits." Ollie reached out all 8 arms and gently wrapped them around Luma in a soft hug. "Thank you for sharing this one." Luma smiled, her fins fluttering like leaves in a breeze. "I think I'd like to come with you just a little further." The trio swam into a shallow lagoon filled with bubble pearls, small orbs that floated gently between sea lilies, glinting with soft color. Here, memories seemed to form around them. Luma whispered a story about learning to spin. Nori remembered the first bubble he ever made, and Ollie laughed so hard at a sea cucumber joke that a puff of ink escaped from him, coloring the water in a happy cloud. Each of them picked a bubble pearl to keep. Ollie's had a swirl inside that looked like a spiral staircase. Nori's looked like a tiny sleeping moon. Luma's glowed faintly blue, like a shy giggle. They didn't speak much after that. They didn't have to. The water did the talking. As the day began to fade and the light bent sideways across the reef, Ollie returned to his nook. The soft hush of early evening settled in like a warm blanket. He pulled out his pouch and looked at everything inside. A round speckled pebble, a crescent moon shell, a swirl-patterned bubble pearl, and a tiny piece of crystal coral. He placed them carefully into a small coral crevice, then nestled himself beside them. "This time," he whispered, I don't need a perfect shell. I got perfect feelings. He closed his eyes and let the gentle rhythm of the sea rock him to sleep. Outside his nook, Nori swam quietly by, releasing one last bubble. This one was deep blue, not for sadness, but for understanding. It drifted gently toward Ollie, touched his mantle, and popped with shimmer. A whisper followed it. You are whole, even when things feel lost. The reef always changed when night approached. The bright shimmer of daylight softened into gentle hues of lavender and deep green. Shadows lengthened, stretching slowly across the sand. The coral bells that chimed cheerfully during the day now rang in lower, slower tones, like the ocean itself was yawning. It was Nori's favorite time. Night in the reef wasn't scary to him. It was beautiful, quiet and still, like the hush before a lullaby. The stars above danced on the surface of the water, their silvery light weaving through kelp and coral like ribbons. But not every creature felt the same. Tonight, as Nori glided near the edge of the kelp forest, he noticed that the usually cheerful chatter of young sea creatures had gone quiet. A tiny angelfish named Bibi darted nervously behind a shell when a shadow passed. A baby blowfish puffed up out of reflex at the soft sound of seaweed brushing stone. Even the twin shrimp, Pippi and Pip, who were always tumbling and giggling, huddled under a rock with wide, anxious eyes. Nori paused in the water, letting the current swirl gently around his tusk. He had seen this before, the hush of fear that sometimes crept in with the dusk. For little ones, the fading of light could turn the friendliest coral into spooky silhouettes. Even the soft bubbling of a distant current could sound like a growl. Nori floated silently for a moment, thinking. Then his tusk shimmered, just a flicker at first, like the glint of moonlight on a bubble. I think, he murmured to himself, it's time to show them the Moonbeam Garden. Not many sea creatures knew about the Moonbeam Garden. It wasn't a place you could just swim into. You had to make it, one bubble, one beam of light, one calm breath at a time. Nori had discovered it once, long ago, while floating near the surface during a meteor shower. He'd watched the streaks of starlight glide across the sky and dip softly into the sea, turning the water silver and still. That night, he had made a dream bubble, and inside it, he'd placed a real moonbeam. Since then, he'd saved those beams. Tiny threads of light gathered with his tusk, captured gently in bubbles and hidden deep within his memory current. Now, as he swam in slow circles, he called them forth. One by one, soft orbs of pale light formed at the tip of his tusk, glowing faintly like sleepy fireflies. Each bubble held a single sliver of moonlight, wrapped in a shimmer of calm. He sent the first toward Bibi. The tiny angelfish peeked out from her shell as the bubble floated closer. It made no sound, cast no shadow. It simply drifted toward her, glowing softly like a pearl kissed by the stars. As it touched her scales, it popped with a faint shimmer, and in its place, a warm light spread around her. Not bright, not loud, just peaceful. Bibi's fins stopped trembling. She let out a tiny sigh and emerged from her hiding place. That felt like a cuddle, she whispered. Nori smiled. That's what moonbeam bubbles do. He turned toward the others. Would you like to help me make more? Soon, the reef was alive with soft, slow movement. Tiny creatures followed Nori through the kelp, each one contributing in their own way. The shrimp Pippi and Pip carried drifting leaves that reflected the moonlight. Bibi sang a soft, humming note that vibrated through the water and helped the bubbles hold their glow. The baby blowfish gently blew small spirals of current that lifted the bubbles upward like lullabies rising into the sky. And Nori, he worked his quiet magic. He touched his tusk to gentle beams of light that filtered to the canopy above, capturing them inside shimmering dream bubbles. Together, they placed the glowing orbs in small coral cradles. Some floated gently above sea fans. Others nestled among swaying fronds of anemone. By the time they were done, the reef had changed. It wasn't dark anymore. It wasn't scary. It looked like a garden of floating stars, each one softly glowing, each one holding a story. Nori gathered the group together near a smooth stone ledge where he loved to rest. Do you know what happens when you sleep near a moonbeam bubble? He asked. The little ones shook their heads, eyes wide with curiosity. You dream, he said, Of light. BB blinked. What kind of light? Whatever light your heart needs, Nori replied. A warm sunbeam if you're cold. A firefly's glow if you're lonely. The twinkle of stars if you're feeling small. The baby blowfish raised a fin. Do we have to do anything? Just breathe, Nori said. The bubbles do the rest. They settled into cozy places, tucked under coral ledges, curled into anemone arms, nestled between seaweed folds. Each one had a moonbeam bubble floating just above their heads. As the night deepened, Nori sang a low, soothing hum, the Dreamkeeper's tune. It was a song older than time, passed from one dream bubble bearer to the next. It didn't have words. It didn't need them. It sounded like the tide brushing sand, like the slow blink of a sleepy whale, like the hush of falling bubbles. And as Nori hummed, the little creatures began to drift. Their eyes closed, their fins softened, their thoughts grew still, and one by one, they fell asleep, wrapped in moonlight and magic. Nori remained floating for a while, just watching. The reef pulsed slowly with life, like it was breathing in rhythm with the dreams it now held. He noticed something curious. One of the bubbles, a small silver one he had placed above Pip's favorite hiding spot, had drifted slightly upward. Instead of bursting, it had grown larger. Inside, the light swirled, soft blue and silver, like mist curling through clouds. Nori approached and peered into it. What he saw made his heart warm. Inside the bubble was a vision. A tiny Pip flying to the sky on a jellyfish balloon, laughing as stars zipped by. The little shrimp was dreaming, really dreaming. Nori exhaled slowly, his breath full of wonder. He'd never seen one of his bubbles hold a dream inside itself before. Maybe, he whispered, this garden really is magic. Later that night, Nori found a quiet patch of sea moss and rested his body there. Above him, the dream bubbles floated like underwater fireflies. And as his eyes grew heavy, he whispered to the sea, let their dreams be sweet. Let their fears be soft. Let the night be kind. Then he closed his eyes and let the hush of the moonbeam garden cradle him, too. The next morning in the reef began with soft amber light filtering down to the ocean's surface, painting everything in shades of peach and coral. Nori was already awake, floating peacefully near the moonbeam garden, where tiny dream bubbles still lingered in the early light. Just beyond a drift of seagrass, a gentle swish of motion caught his eye. It was Luma, the sea dragon. She glided slowly, her tail trailing behind like a ribbon. Her head hung a little low, and her soft teal fins flicked with uncertainty. Morning, Luma, Nori called out gently. She blinked and offered a quiet smile. Hi, Nori. He noticed something in her expression, like a thought she carried all night, but hadn't yet spoken. Would you like to swim a bit? Nori asked. She nodded. Yes, please. They moved together through the reef in silence for a while. Eventually, Luma spoke. I want to tell stories, she said quietly, her voice barely above the sound of the sea. Big stories. Important ones. But every time I try, my voice shrinks. Nori nodded slowly. Because you're afraid? She tilted her head. Not afraid they won't listen. Afraid they will and I'll say it wrong. Nori drifted beside her, thoughtful. Your voice is soft, Luma. But soft things can carry far, like moonlight or bubbles or lullabies. Luma looked down. But how do I start? Maybe, Nori said, you begin by telling your story to someone who already believes it matters. He smiled gently, and Luma smiled back. They settled in the glow shell hollow, a quiet space surrounded by open clamshells that shimmered with inner light. Ollie joined them soon, curling beside Luma like a cozy armchair with 8 cushions. Can I listen to? He asked, eyes wide. Luma nodded, then took a breath. Not a big roar of breath, but a small, steady one. And she began. When I was little, she said softly, I couldn't make bubble rings like the other dragons. Mine always wobbled or popped. She laughed, a tiny, watery sound. So instead of joining them, I'd hide and watch the coral sway. I'd pretend the coral was dancing just for me. I started to hum to them, little songs. She looked at her fins. One day, an old whale passed by and said he heard me humming. He told me it helped him sleep. that I had a peaceful roar. I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. Nori's tusk gave a faint shimmer. "You do have a peaceful roar," he said, "and you're sharing it right now." Luma blinked. "I am." "You are." Ollie grinned. "And I love it." Luma smiled, a full beaming sea dragon kind of smile. For the first time, she didn't shrink from her voice. She leaned into it. They stayed in the hollow for a while longer, singing soft bubble songs and echoing silly sea sounds just to make each other laugh. And later that day, when Luma swam past a group of young seahorses who looked worried about performing their choral dance, she whispered a story of a shy seaweed who became a wave. They smiled and danced, and Luma's heart swelled. Her voice hadn't needed to be loud. It only needed to be hers. The reef was buzzing, gently, of course, not in a noisy, flurry of bubbles sort of way, but in a peaceful, happy hum that passed from coral to coral like a soft ripple. Word had gotten around that Ollie, the octopus, was planning something very special. A parade, he had declared the day before, all 8 arms extended with excitement. A pebble parade, where everyone brings a little object that holds a memory, something small but full of feeling. Nori loved the idea right away. He twirled a tiny bubble in the water and said, "Every memory is a kind of treasure, and every treasure deserves a parade." So now, as sunlight filtered to the surface in dancing ribbons, creatures from all over the reef gathered near the big flat coral, the perfect place for a celebration. There were sea snails with shells painted by barnacles, jellyfish with ribbon streamers, and even the usually shy scallops clicking in excitement. Ollie swam to the center, holding a piece of soft coral shaped like a star. "This," he said with a proud puff, "is the first new memory I found on my quest. It looks like a star, but it feels like courage." Nori released a golden yellow dream bubble in honor of the moment, and it gently hovered above the coral like a glowing lantern. One by one, the others came forward. A tiny crab offered a pebble shaped like a heart. "I found it the day my brother let me have the last plankton puff. I keep it to remember that kindness." A shy sea slug presented a bit of kelp that shimmered blue. "It's from the night I wasn't afraid of the dark. I slept outside my cave and dreamed of flying." Even Luma brought something, a sliver of drift glass, smooth and curved. "It caught the light just right," she said, "and reminded me I could shine in my own way." Nori's tusk twinkled. "This is more than a parade," he said gently. "It's a garden of memories." To celebrate, Nori conjured dream bubbles to match each object's feeling. Soft lavender for the kelp of bravery, blush pink for the crab's pebble of love, pale silver for Luma's glimmer of self-belief. The reef shimmered with color. The creatures placed their items in a big, heart-shaped coral hollow, where they would be safe and admired, a kind of memory museum that anyone could visit. Ollie floated nearby, arms wrapped in joy. "I thought I was building collection," he said quietly, "but I was really building connection." Nori gave a soft smile. "That's what memories are meant for." And as twilight approached, the reef slowly dimmed, but the memory garden glowed with dream bubbles, like stars rising from the seafloor. The parade was over, but the feeling it left behind, that would drift gently through the reef for a long, long time. The day had started peacefully, just like most days in the reef. Soft waves swayed the kelp, sleepy fish blinked in the morning light, and Nori floated lazily near a warm current, releasing a few tiny dream bubbles for fun. He watched them spiral upward, turning pink, then gold, then finally a shimmering silver as they popped quietly in the sunbeams. But then the sea shifted. It began with a low rumble, like a deep breath held too long. The current that was once soft and meandering picked up speed. The kelp began to whip instead of sway. And somewhere in the distance, a dark patch of water tumbled in, stirring up sand and shells. "A storm," Nori whispered. "Not a dangerous one. Not the kind that sent creatures scrambling into caves. But still an unsettling one. The kind that made hearts beat a little faster, made little ones feel unsure, and made the coral go quiet." Now, in the middle of the day, the reef sat in an unusual stillness. The coral bells, delicate tendrils of coral that chimed with the water's movement, had stopped ringing. They always sang. Even when the tide changed, even when the crabs clicked too loudly, even when Ollie tried to play them like drums. But now, silence. Nori swam slowly past a patch of them and gave the softest flick of his tail. They didn't ring, not even a whisper. Why did they stop? Ollie asked, his eyes wide and arms drawn close to his body. They're scared, Luma said gently. Even coral can feel uneasy. Bibi the angelfish fluttered behind them. If the coral won't sing, how will we know everything's okay? Nori didn't answer right away. Instead, he touched his tusk gently to one of the branches. It pulsed faintly but made no sound. They're waiting, he said softly. They need to hear a new song, a safe one. So Nori made a plan. We'll give the reef a lullaby, he said. Together, he wasn't sure how it would work. But he was sure that every creature had something inside them, a note, a hum, a whisper, that could become part of the song. They began small. Luma exhaled a slow breath, low and deep, that vibrated the water like a quiet drum. Ollie added a gentle tap of pebbles, making a soft, clicking rhythm. Bibi sang a high, fluttering melody like raindrops on a seashell. And Nori, he added the hum of his dream bubbles, not just releasing them, but letting them sing as they floated. Others joined in. The snails tapped their shells against hollow driftwood. The shrimp clicked their tiny claws. Even the sleepy sea turtles rumbled a low harmony from their bellies. It wasn't loud. It wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful, and it was real. Then something magical happened. A coral bell, the one closest to Nori's tusk, trembled. Then another, and another. Like wind chimes discovering the breeze again, they began to ring, not with their usual song, but with a new one, the lullaby of the reef. The coral responded not to fear, but to togetherness. The sound spread, blooming through the reef in gentle waves, reaching corners that had been hushed since the storm. The reef began to feel like itself again. Later, when the current slowed and the water cleared, the creatures gathered beneath the bell corals to rest. Some dozed, some swayed in rhythm, and some, like Ollie, quietly hummed a lullaby to himself over and over. Nori floated nearby, eyes half closed, heart full. He realized something important. Sometimes, the reef didn't need dream bubbles. It needed a song, and the most beautiful songs were the ones sung together. Far beyond the kelp forest, past ripple caves and lullaby reefs, the ocean deepens into a world of shadow and shimmer. Here, the light grows quieter, and the colors hush themselves into blues, grays, and occasional soft glow. Nori usually didn't swim this far out at night, but tonight was different. One of his dream bubbles had drifted away, a golden one, filled with laughter and light, meant for a tiny fish named MIP who had been too nervous to sleep. Nori had gently blown the bubble toward MIP's coral crevice, but a sudden tug from an unexpected current swept it far, far down into the deep sea trench. Most creatures would have let it go, but not Nori. That bubble was filled with courage, he whispered to himself, and some little fish still needs it. So with a flick of his tail and shimmer of his tusk, he swam down and deeper still. The water cooled. The reef disappeared above him. Only tiny specks of bioluminescence blinked here and there, like stars scattered underwater. Nori swam slower now. The trench was quiet, not frightening, just vast and unfamiliar. He released a small bubble to light the way. Its soft blue glow cast circles of light that pulsed gently outward. And there, just ahead, hovered the lost bubble. It hadn't popped. It simply floated, shimmering faintly as if waiting. As Nori reached out his tusk to gather it, a flash of light flickered from behind a nearby rock. Then another, and another. He turned slowly. From the dark swam a small creature, glowing faintly from a light just above his eyes. It looked like a fish, but with long fins that trail like threads and scales that shimmer like oil on water. "Hello," Nori said softly. The creature blinked. Are you talking to me?" "Yes." Nori smiled. "I'm Nori." The creature tilted its head. "I'm Kai. I lost a dream bubble," Nori explained. "It drifted here." Kai looked at it. "I've been watching it. It's warm, but I don't know what it is." "It's a dream," Nori said. "Well, A dream wrapped a bubble. Kai floated closer. I've never had a dream before. Nori blinked. Never. Kai shook his head. Down here, everything stays still. I don't sleep the same way others do. Just drift and wait for morning. There was no bitterness in Kai's voice. Just a quiet sort of wondering. Nori smiled gently. Would you like to try one? Kai hesitated. Is it safe? It's more than safe, Nori said. It's gentle. It's a story your heart tells you when your eyes are closed. Kai looked at the golden bubble, then nodded. Nori floated closer, tapped his tusk to the bubble, and guided it slowly toward Kai. As it touched the glow above Kai's head, it burst, not loudly, but with a soft shimmer that pulsed through the water like a sleepy heartbeat. Kai blinked, then blinked again, and slowly his fins began to relax. His eyes softened. His glowing light dimmed to a calm blue. I see, he murmured. I see the reef. I see a moon made of jellyfish. I see me, flying. Nori's heart lifted. Kai was dreaming. And even though he remained floating, awake in body, something within him had changed. They stayed together for a while. Kai told Nori what he saw, what he felt. He laughed, a little, and said the dream had tickled. He said it made him feel warm in a place he didn't know existed before. I think I'd like another one someday, Kai said shyly. You will, Nori said. The first dream always returns. Before swimming up, Nori gave Kai a small pearl-shaped bubble, not filled with dreams this time, but with light. So you always remember what it felt like, he said. Kai tucked it gently beneath a stone, where it would glow beside him forever. As Nori swam upward, back toward the reef, he carried something new with him. Not just the joy of finding the bubble, but the joy of giving someone their very first dream. Above him, the sea brightened. And deep below, Kai watched the light fade into the distance with a peaceful little smile. One morning, as Nori swam through a sleepy reef, a strange sound brushed past his tusk. Not a voice, not a song, but something softer. A whisper. It floated along the water, like a feather on a breeze. Did you hear that? He asked Ollie. Ollie wiggled all 8 arms. I thought I imagined it. Luma, listening quietly, nodded. It's the whispering current. Nori blinked. The what? It's old, she said. A gentle current that drifts through the reef just once a year, carrying forgotten dreams. Nori tilted his head. Forgotten? Dreams that were never finished. Wishes that drifted away. Luma whispered. Some find their way home again. Curious and calm, Nori followed the current. As he swam, soft echoes filled the water. A seahorse dreaming of dancing, a crab who once wanted to sing, a puffin fish who hoped to fly. And then he heard his own voice. Faint, but there. I want to see the stars above the waves. Nori's eyes widened. He had whispered that dream long ago, when he was very small. He had forgotten. Now here it was, gliding gently back to him. At the edge of the reef, he paused and looked up. The surface shimmered high above. With a deep breath, Nori swam up, and for the first time, he broke through the water. The sky was vast and velvet blue. Real stars sparkled, so many more than he'd ever imagined. He floated there quietly, heart full. Not all dreams stay gone forever. Some just wait for the right current. It was Ollie who had the idea. We've shared dream bubbles and memories, he said one day. But what if we shared them in a surprise? So they created the rainbow spiral, a swirl of floating coral, shells, and ribbons, where every creature could place a gift bubble inside a swirl and let it float to someone else. The rules were simple. Make a dream bubble, fill it with something kind, send it off, and trust it will find the right friend. Luma filled hers with courage and sent it to a shy sea slug. BB made one filled with sea sparkle and sent it to a sleepy eel. And Nori? He sent one without writing a name at all, just a soft pink glow and a note. You are more loved than you know. That bubble drifted across the reef. It passed the coral bells, the moonbeam garden, the old trench, and gently it returned to Nori, a soft bubble, lavender blue, with a single word written in kelp thread. Thank you. No name, no need, just love returned. That night, the reef was quieter than usual. Even the coral bells rang in whispers. Nori floated above the reef, gazing down at all the friends, memories, and stories tucked gently into the coral below. "I think," he said softly, "it's time." With a calm breath, he focused his tusk and formed the biggest bubble he'd ever made. It shimmered in every color: pink for love, blue for calm, gold for joy, silver for wonder, lavender for dreams. And inside were tiny kisses of starlight, gathered over time. One by one, creatures came to see. They blinked sleepily. They smiled, and as Nori let the bubble rise, it floated gently to the surface, glowing like a second moon. It shimmered there, waiting, then popped, but it didn't vanish. It rained down. Star kisses, tiny lights, drifted onto the reef. Every fish, every crab, every creature closed their eyes. The reef exhaled, the water stilled, and in the hush of moonlight, sleep embraced them all. And somewhere far away, you too, little listener, can feel it, soft, safe, and loved. Sleep well.